Hi, I'm Fran Karabel Schwartz, and I'm here today to share my story, my life with you, with my children, with my grandchildren, and hopefully great-grandchildren. I was born in Philadelphia. I've spent almost my entire life in Philadelphia. I grew up in an area in Philadelphia, in the city, called West Oak Lane, and it was at the northern end of the city, and we lived on a row home street. Now,
what are row homes?
Well, row homes are just what it sounds like. There are streets in Philadelphia, Baltimore, are cities of row homes. And there, it's just a long street with one house connected to the next. And we were fortunate, we lived right in the center of a very, very long street. It was a very friendly neighborhood. We grew up happy. Everybody spent a great deal of time outside in the weather of the spring, summer, and fall. The children would gather and play in the streets, very different than today. When I was a child, we would come home from school, we would play outside, then when everybody would go in for dinner, and in the nice weather, the longer days, we would go outside, we would play ball, we would play hide and seek. The families were very intertwined. Everybody would visit other people. The parents would sit outside. We had a wonderful awning and a glider, and my parents would sit outside. When I got married and had my children, we lived in the suburbs in a single home. And, well, actually, that's not true. Our first home was in the city, but it was a single home, and it was a small street, and it was still a little bit the same, because the homes were lined up, there was space in between, and the kids could play outside. But when we moved to Cheltenham, which was in the suburbs, then we lived in a single home, and you had to drive everywhere. You had some kids that you could play with on the block, but not many. My mother was from a family of females. She had 3 younger sisters. I have a sister, still very close with her, my sister Judy, and she's much younger than I am, 5.5 years younger than I am. So growing up, we didn't really have that much in common. By the time she was a toddler, I was in school, but we became very close by the time I got married, and then she did. And my mother and her sisters were extremely close. They talked to each other. Each one spoke to each other every single day, and they were very close with their parents. They all lived in the Philadelphia area. The family life that I had was very close-knit, immediate family and extended family. You want to know about my parents individually? My mother she was a housewife and a mother. She didn't work outside of the home, so she was always there. She was there when we came home from school for lunch, and she always had lunch ready for us. She was not an involved person in community or volunteer things, but she was there. She was devoted, she was kind, gentle. My father was a very special person, very special. Not that my mother wasn't, but Daddy was everybody's best friend. He was sweet, kind, generous, caring. He was an attorney, and he was involved in people's lives. The thing that stands out for me is that wherever we were, wherever we lived, our house was the center of activity. People always gravitated to our home.
Wow, the energy must have been
the
great
energy.
there.
He was humorous. He was a fun kind of guy. I can picture him lying on the floor. He would, wherever we were or lived, if he were tired, he would lie on the floor. And people came to expect his stuff. You know, he just had things that were expected of him. He was the kind of person in his work that became involved with his clients on a social level, on a personal level. I know that he brought together a number of couples who were thinking of divorce, and he got them back together.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
So I'm trying to think if there's anything else. It was a quiet household. I never heard a raised voice. I never heard any yelling.
Comfortable.
Yes,
peaceful.
I never heard either one of my parents curse.
Oh, wow.
Growing
okay.
up,
Yeah.
I remember one time my father was in the den with the doors closed, and I heard him say hell, and I was shocked. I was a teenager because that was not the kind of thing
It
that
was
he would
uncommon.
normally.
Yeah.
It was a peaceful
Yeah. That
household.
sounds nice.
Yes, perhaps because they only had girls, no boys. They made us feel, especially Dad. Daddy made us feel, both my sister and me, that we could do anything we wanted to do.
That's wonderful.
That girls were just as good as boys, and whatever we set our goals. And it was a different kind of time when women were limited in some respect when I was growing up.
Yeah. So, and you were saying he was an attorney. Is that something that he wanted you to pursue, or?
Yes, I think he did. When I was in college and I was pursuing a liberal arts degree, he tried to convince me that I should go to law school, which was something that I really had no intention of doing, no desire to do.
Right.
And back then, when I was in college, I graduated in 1961.
Where did you graduate from?
From the University of Pennsylvania.
Okay, great.
And in Philadelphia, very few students, even men, boys at that time,
Interesting.
tended not to go far away from home.
Yeah, all states.
So it was
close in.
either Temple or Penn.
Okay.
I was very fortunate. I won a part scholarship from high school. I went to Olney High School in Philadelphia, and so I was able to go to Penn. And I must tell you that the tuition at the time was $400 a year when I entered.
Oh my gosh! Wow. Compared
And
to
by
now.
the time, that's right, and by the time I graduated, it had quadrupled to $1,600 a year,
doubt it,
and I had a part scholarship, so
Good
that
for
was
you.
helpful.
Yeah.
Yes, he wanted somebody to follow in his footsteps, join his law firm, and I did not do that. I went on into graduate school and got a master. I have a BA in English literature and then got an MA in English literature. So the next up was my sister,
Yeah.
and he tried to convince her, and
That
she didn't bite either.
Yeah.
And then I got engaged, and he tried, well, no, it was too late for my husband because he was at Wharton Graduate School. That's
Okay.
where we met. So he gave up on him because he wasn't going to law school after getting an MBA. But my sister married a young man, and he went to law school, actually to Penn Law, and he went into practice.
Oh, there you go. So we got
My
it from
brother-in-law
somewhere.
Bill became a lawyer, and he went into practice with
Yeah,
Daddy. So
that's
that was really
wonderful.
nice,
Yeah.
finally. My undergraduate and master's were in English literature.
Right.
And what do you do with English literature? Do you open an English literature store? No. You become a
right.
teacher, you write. And I got married in the interim when I was just finishing my master's degree. I got married, and so a teacher. And although I didn't have a teaching degree, I was able to get a long-term sub job in Philadelphia, substitute teacher, when, and that's another story because my husband and I were in the Army for a period, but when we came back, we then settled in Philly, and I was able to get a long-term sub job at Lincoln High in Philadelphia. And then after I had children, I was a substitute for many years. So I substituted in the Philadelphia high school, junior highs and high schools. We were both at Penn. I was an undergraduate. I was in my junior year, and he came to Penn to get a graduate degree, a Wharton MBA, Master of Business Administration. He was from the Bronx. He was a New Yorker, a Bronx boy. He had gone to college at Oberlin College, which is in Ohio. It is known for its music, which was an irony as things would follow through, but he was not a music major. He had a history major. And then he decided to get a business degree, and we were fixed up on a blind date.
Oh my gosh.
And today, I don't know whether people know what a blind date is,
Yeah,
but
explain.
I was in a sorority, and a sorority sister of mine knew a friend of his, a classmate, and made an arranged date. And we met on Halloween. It was on a Saturday night. We had a Halloween date, not in costume, I might
gonna
add,
say, what were
but
you dressed
today
as?
he always says, I met my wife on Halloween. She flew in on her broom. So that's still a joke 50-some years later.
Yeah, you guys still share the humor.
So we dated for a while, and it didn't become serious. We just dated and then dated other people as well. And ultimately, after we stopped dating for a while, friends of ours who were in a group from his graduate school, I guess you would call them his clique, they decided we should be together. They were sisters, Pat and Judy, and they decided we should be together. So they planned a dinner, and they invited everybody from their group, and they told him to come, and they told me to come, but didn't tell us that the other one was coming. And that was it. And then we got together. Yes, yes.
Oh,
so, and we got married in December of 1961, December 30th, 1961. And as of right now, we are approaching our 54th anniversary.
That's wonderful.
Which seems like it's impossible.
Yeah.
Seems like, where did those years go?
Yeah,
right.
But they've been enjoyed. That's where they've gone.
Yes, most of the time.
Yeah.
No marriage is all joy. We all know that. And it's something that I think it's important to impart. That when people get married, they come from two different backgrounds, two different families. I've told you about my family. Well, he came from a family of males. And so the atmosphere in his house was a little different. And getting to know each other it's a process. It really is a process. It's not always easy. So we've worked it out, and I think those who have been able to make their marriages work have to work out the differences. If you do come from different backgrounds, and today I think that's even more prevalent than it was in my day, you have to learn to appreciate your partner's good side, the values, the things that you've chosen. There will always be differences, and you have to appreciate the differences. But I think what I have found is that trust, loyalty, devotion, these are the important things that can make a marriage, and very important, humor. I have a husband who can still sometimes act like a young boy, and that keeps us laughing. I think that's very important. There will always be problems, and if you can sit down and work them out, talk them out, that will certainly help. I think that I have friends that are divorced. A lot of them, first marriages divorced and then remarried, and I think they learned those things from the experience of the first marriage perhaps not working, that these are things you just have to work out. There will always be these differences. And I think the lucky ones are the ones that learn how to do that. We have two boys, Mark, our older son, and Kenny, who now goes, that was his given name, who now goes by his Hebrew name, Gershon. Mark is married to Lisa, and they live in Los Angeles, and they have a beautiful little boy, just one child, Michael London Schwartz. And they married late. Mark was 40 when he married, and Lisa a little bit younger. And they have this young boy, even though they're both now at this stage. He's going to be 8. Lisa just turned 50, and Mark turned 51. So at that age, when I was 50, Mark was 25.
Oh my gosh.
When he was 50, his son was 7. So it's a very different way of raising children. So they're very busy now, running to elementary school, to taekwondo, to soccer, baseball, all of his involvements. And then there is Kenneth Stephen Schwartz, who is now Gershon Ben Shalom. And Ben Shalom is my husband Sidney's Hebrew name. So Ben Shalom means son of Sidney.
Oh, I love that.
And so what I always say is, oh, wonderful, son of Sidney, and what am I, chopped liver? So
you just birthed him, right?
That's all. And he is married to Eliza, who was also Lisa originally. That's her Hebrew name, Eliza. So we really have two Lisa daughters-in-law who Both of them are really like the daughters we never had. We're very fortunate that we have two wonderful daughters-in-law. And Gershon and Eliza, Kenny and Lisa, have 5 children.
Wow, good
They
for you.
have David Lev, who's named for my father David, and Miriam. They are close in age, about 20 months apart, and then there's a 4-month break.
Oh, wow.
And as we say, or as Eliza says, then came, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. They're each 2 months apart. Right now, David Lev is 11 and a half. Miriam will be 10. And we have, I have to always stop and think, Moshe Chai, who will be 6 very soon, in a couple weeks. Then we have Yehuda Yosef, YY, who will be 4 the end of this month. And then we have Avraham Levi, Avram Levi, who will be 2 this summer. So it's a very busy household. We try and stay very involved in their lives because they live close by. They live in Ballackinwood, which is about 20, 25 minutes away. And as we speak, they will be moving from their row home, 7 of them in a 3-bedroom row home this summer, to a big 3-story, 6-bedroom home with a fenced-in yard for everybody to play in. So we're all very excited about that. Well, the story that I'm told, and I don't really remember because I was very young, is that my parents took me to visit his cousin, Sherman, who was a concert pianist. And when I was not quite 5, they sat me on his knee at the piano, and he poked around the keys with me, and he said to my parents, this child should have piano lessons.
Wow.
So I started piano when I was only 5 years old.
Okay, yeah, that's
And that truly is, besides my family, that's my passion, my other passion of my life.
Yeah, we'll talk
is the
about
music.
that passion. So how
Well,
has that played a role
I
in your
think
life?
I might have mentioned before that I took music lessons from that early age of kindergarten all through school, through high school, and then I gave it up.
Oh, really?
I gave it up, and in college was well, first a math major actually for a short time, and then my English lit major. But after we married, my parents gave us the piano that I grew up on when we moved into our first home, and I started to play again, and I realized that that was my passion, that I didn't want to be in a school and teach grammar. Which is really what I would have done with my degrees, basically. And I went back to school. And at that time, Arcadia University was Beaver College. And I walked in one day. Actually, that's not true. Actually, I walked in one day to pursue becoming a teacher of special reading specialist for I can't even remember how they termed it, for special children who either had special needs or advanced children who were especially bright.
Oh, okay.
And I was told that I would have to take English 101 or 102 again. And I had a master's degree in English, so I said, this is not for me. And there was a small music department. And so I went in and I met a wonderful professor who encouraged me to pursue that, and that's what I did. And for the next, I would say about 4 years, I was in my late 30s, I took the music undergraduate courses that I had never had, and then I was able to take the graduate courses, and eventually I got a Master of Music in Piano Performance. I started teaching piano, and after I got my degree, my husband said, so now what do you do with this degree? You open a music shop? So my grandmother, my mother's mom, was in a nursing home at the time. And I decided that I would go and play for them. But I wanted to play not the golden oldies that everybody played, but my classical music. My degree was in piano performance of classical music. And they were very hesitant. The activities director said, they won't like that. And that's all I needed was a challenge. That was the one thing that I think my father taught me, is always take a challenge. You can do whatever you want to do. And so I went and I played a program of classical music, but I talked to them about the music, told them about the music, about how it should make them feel, about the composers' lives. And it worked. So he brought me back. I went for nothing, and I think he paid me the next time $27.50.
Oh my God.
And I decided if I could do it there, why not other places?
Yeah.
And that's how I started. I took out the phone book, and I looked up nursing homes, and I started with nursing homes, and then I moved to retirement homes, and then I moved to women's clubs and organizations and synagogue and church groups, and that's what I've been doing since the early 1980s after I got my degree. I don't have that many students at this point in my life, but I'm still teaching because I like that connection with the children.
Definitely.
So my life is divided between the young people, teaching, and performing for mostly adults and seniors. Our son in California has the original piano. It was shipped out there.
Wow,
So when I go out, I play for Michael.
Okay.
And he loves to play and pick out tunes, but no, he's more into sports. Now maybe with the kids getting a new home and a bigger home, maybe we'll be able to have a piano there and have somebody play.
That would be nice.
I would
yeah.
like that.
Definitely
I would
pass
like that,
down.
yes.
Yeah.
I think if you can find something that you really, truly love, a passion, I think that can move your life in a direction. Of course, search for the person to share your life with you. Choose carefully. When I grew up, women got married young. That's a story that's interesting. When we got engaged, I was not 20, well, I was 22, I believe.
Okay.
And my mother had an aunt. My mother's father was one of 6 boys, and then a girl.
Wow.
And her name was Aunt Pearl. And when Mom called her to tell her I was engaged, and I've heard this many, many times, she said, "Thanks be to God." She was afraid I was going to be an old maid.
Oh my gosh,
I
at the
was
age of
22. And so today we don't rush, young people don't rush into marriage. They search, and they know better what they're searching for. I think that's true. As I said, I think those of us who married young and it worked were the lucky ones
Yeah,
who were able to work it out. Be kind, be gentle, share with others, give of yourself to your community. I'm very involved with mostly music things. I'm a volunteer, a very devoted volunteer to the Philadelphia Orchestra. I just got a pin for 25 years of volunteering. I've been a member of the Pennsylvania Music Teachers Association, two chapters in Philly, for many, many years.
Very involved.
Yes, I was co-president of the Philadelphia Music Teachers Association. I'm still active with those chapters. And I'm involved at synagogue with the Music Arts Committee there.
Great.
For many years before I became involved with the orchestra, I volunteered with a group called Art Goes to School, where we took art into the elementary schools in Cheltenham. So I think it's important to give of yourself. If you have the ability, if you have the knowledge, if you have the passion to share with others, I think that makes a life more valuable. I think.
I agree.